Hello and welcome to White Centipede Noise Podcast. I'm Oscar Brummel, and today my guest is Johnathan Cash of the infamous project Breakdancing RONALD REAGAN and the newer, very, very harsh, crushing, serious project Sunk Cost. I'm going to be giving away this Sunk Cost embroidered cap from Dada Drumming. There will be a post at the end of the episode to all heavy sponsors and Noise Fiend Patreons. And the first person who comments will get the hat sent to them. My hair is not too greasy right now. I've only worn it once, so it won't be too dirty when it arrives. Out today, there's also 5 new tapes on White Centipede Noise that are now available for order. They are from Robert Fuchs, called Sunstroke, a split between Mott and Murmur, 2 Canadian projects. God Pussy, a really harsh Brazilian project. Viper, Noise Drone Weapon, that's Joe Romer of Macronympha on solo guitar. And the top secret tape, the top secret reissue tape, the Holy Grail that I've been warning you guys about these past few weeks is Jockus's, the SNSC years. This is the pre-Paranoid Time project of Pat Yankee. This is really elite, weirdo music. These are all up for sale right now at whitecentipedenoise.com. I'll tell you guys more about what's going on the Patreon and so forth and so on after the episode. So for now, we'll get to Johnathan Cash. Please enjoy. Johnny Cash, hello and welcome to White Centipede Noise Podcast.
Yeah. What's up?
Thank you for joining me. I'm a little bit surprised you are presenting yourself so modestly. I was expecting perhaps a bathtub full of soup or something like that.
Listen, if my apartment had the capabilities, we'd be there. But also, I mean, you know, that's just the reality of, like, noise people or whatever. Like, I remember when I was, like, a kid in Houston, I was really scared of Richard Ramirez because he's just kind of... I just assumed meeting Richard Ramirez when I was, like, 15, I was like, oh, he's just going to, like, tie me up and beat me or something. You know? Because he's got, you know, you take the aesthetic so literally, and it's like Black Leather Jesus is this very, very Black Leather Jesus thing. And then there was a moment where I was like on a tour and stayed at his house and we're just like eating Chipotle on the couch watching Squidbillies. And I'm like, damn, this is just some guy.
That's what it always is like. Most people are just really...
There's very few. Like, I feel like the crazier the project, the more like chill they seem to be. Like Emil from Cocky SP, you would think that guy's like a psycho. And every time I've been around him, he's like the most normal guy at the show.
I mean, I'm from Minneapolis, so I kind of know him, but I don't know him. Like, I never really saw him. I mean, I saw him, but I never really talked to him or hung out with him, but he seemed pretty weird in real life.
The only times I really interacted with him face to face, like at length, is I did book him in Austin once for one of the 9/11 Noise Fests. And that was probably, I think I got the worst Cocky SP set that's ever happened.
How so?
Because it basically didn't happen.
Okay.
The gimmick was they brought only tiny gear, like those little Marshall battery amps and stuff. And the gimmick was like everything's bigger in Texas, so they're just playing like a noise set using very tiny gear. And they get it set up and sound checked. It sounds like shit. It sounds like Cocky SP. It's just like a bunch of feedback from like a tiny clip mic on a little piece of metal. And then Emil walks off stage for a sec to like grab a drink, and then comes back and trips and falls on the table and just unplugs it all. It was like just an accidental like oops, and then they spent like 20 minutes with no sound just dismantling the venue PA while the sound people were just like staring angrily at them, and that was the set. I just got a silent cock ESP set where they just unplugged everything. Which was fitting, I think.
Yeah, it is. They probably got back in the car then like 5 minutes later and drove back to Minneapolis, didn't they?
I think so, yeah. I don't think they like stuck around or like tore it down. They just came to play and then like left. I didn't even pay them. I wanted to. They just left. I was like, all right, more money for... God, who else played that year? Satan's God played that year, if you know that guy.
No.
Insane.
That was always what they did. They always like when they came to Milwaukee or something like that, they would just show up, or I heard about them driving like way further, like 24 hours playing like a 2-minute set and then just driving back.
That's like Goat style. Goat will like, he used to go on like tours or whatever and go play like he came and played the Bay Area for like 5 minutes, then just went back to Texas. I was just like, okay.
So, okay, so you've been around
end to that sentence
in noise for a very long time. You've been kind of a fixture in noise since before I got involved.
Next year will be like the official 20th year of breakdancing Ronald Reagan, which is just what the hell's wrong with me.
So tell me about breakdancing Ronald Reagan, because like I said, when I kind of discovered noise, I saw the name around a lot. I don't think I ever saw you play or heard any recordings back then, but I on the Tronics board, like you were,
yeah.
I knew who you were, but I didn't really know who you were. But I knew breakdancing Ronald Reagan was very active, very crazy, and you're doing it still. And we'll talk about it eventually. But you're also doing Sunk Cost, and that was an interesting thing for me recently, because not recently, but in the past few years, like Sunk Cost is very different, at least in how it's presented.
Yeah, Sunk Cost is meant to be like just harsh noise. Like it's like genre serious music. Yeah. I mean, the set can still be like fun to look at, energetic, funny outfit, whatever, but like there's not going to be any samples. There's not going to be... I just like... I want it to be aestheticless, basically. It's just noise for noise's sake. And it's because breakdancing Ronald Reagan used to just be, my whatever project. Sometimes noise, sometimes whatever I felt like doing. And eventually that became more like performance-oriented, and the noise kind of took a back seat. And I was like, but I do like making noise, and I felt like after doing so many like silly, ridiculous breakdancing Ronald Reagan sets, if I just show up in a fucking hoodie playing pedals, people are gonna be like, what the fuck? So I was like, I feel like there needs to be a project where it's like noted, like if you're coming to this show, I'm probably just gonna be head down in front of a mixer, Well, so what is breakdancing Ronald Reagan all about? I have no idea. It's just me. It's because it started when I was literally 14. That's when I started doing it. 33 now. And it's just sort of followed whatever my tastes or interests are at the time. It started as cyber grind. I was just trying to do like Electrocutioners, Ganglia, that sort of like that MySpace era.
What cyber grind?
Like Fruity Loops, just digital grindcore, basically, more or less. Like using little to no real gear because I was 14 and didn't have any, and just sort of recording into my fucking, computer mic or whatever, screaming over it. And that was just sort of, I feel like that was just kind of in style at the time. There was a million fucking, there's still folks around now like Bubblegum Octopus and stuff, but there used to be so many projects that were just, let's open up Fruity Loops or like a MIDI player and just like make little like blast beats digitally and just yell. And that's what I tried to do. And then I discovered I was bad at it. I'm not much for programming. I don't really know music whatsoever. Like I know a lot of noise people are like, oh, but I also in this band, or I know how to play guitar. I don't know how to do that. Like I can't. I don't know how to do anything that isn't just like turn the loud button on or whatever. So at some point, I then decided, I was like, well, it's still cybergrind, but it's noisecore, which was just my cop-out way of being like, if it's shitty, that's on you, the listener. You signed up. And I would just record into like, I would make like digital tracks on like Fruity Loops or whatever, but I didn't have a audio editor. I didn't really understand how those work. I still really don't. I'm still like using like Audacity and Goldwave for half my shit. So I would just throw them into Microsoft Sound Recorder and just like the old littles, like the little square that would come with like Windows XP or whatever, and I would just like yell into my webcam mic into that, and then I would just keep clicking like raise volume 10%, raise volume 10%, just keep doing that till it was like undiscernible, just like blown out shit. But that was just like the early days. I don't know.
And when you started performing, or when did it start becoming a performance-oriented project? Because that seems to be a big part of it, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the focus of it still to this day. Partially just because BRR recordings would have more like vocal-oriented stuff, and I've always lived in places where I either can't do it or I just don't want to. I don't want people to hear me screaming in my room or singing a pop song cover. You know, I like privacy. Yeah. I can do it on stage, but when it's at home with like headphones in and dead silence, it's a little embarrassing. It's embarrassing on stage too, but in a fun way. At some point, I mean, my first show I think was 2006. I got on one of those terrible like Battle of the Bands where they like invite local artists to play, but it's really like, yeah, you can play if you sell 20 tickets. It's that sort of bullshit.
Like a real Battle of the Bands, not like a noise Battle of the Bands.
No, this was at some fucking like just shitty club called like Java Jazz in like a Houston suburb. Okay. And I remember I just bought the tickets because I was like, oh, nobody's going to go to this. I was a dropout at the time, just like living at home, not in school, like 14 or 15. I was maybe almost 16 by then. But I just bought the tickets with like whatever money I could come up with, and then just showed up, played for all of like 10 seconds, sounded like shit. It was just like, I didn't understand how gear worked, but I thought in my head, I was like, I got this. I know they got the contact mic, they got the delay pedal, they got the distortion. So I showed up with like a shaker, a Dan Electro Fab Metal, and like an Arion stereo delay. So it just sounded like through a bunch of distortion, like analog delay noises. And I just like took out a package of, I had printed like Breakdancing Ronald Reagan stickers. And the idea, I was like, oh, there's this big crowd of people who don't know what this is. They're going to hear this crazy noise, and I'm going to throw my merch over the crowd. Long story short, as most noise sets go that are new, it was not crazy noise. It was just kind of lukewarm and awkward. That I took out the stickers, but it was like so hot in there. I was like sweating, and they were just like a brick, like leaked and glued together. And I threw them, and it just hit one person in the head, and they asked me to leave. And that was the start of the show, the start of the live experience.
What were you like envisioning or dreaming for with that? I mean, you wanted to always make some sort of impression, but you probably knew it was not a noise from the audience. Like, what was your kind of dream? Like, oh, they're going to be totally amazed, they're going to be freaked out, they're going to cry.
I think I was thinking more freaked out. I think I was always, I mean, I was, ashamed to admit it, but I was definitely a big, like, anal cunt, GG, whatever, that sort of shit. I mean, as a teenager, I think every teenager, the more you tell someone it pisses people off, the more they like it. And I love shit like that. I wanted to really, like, push buttons. And, in my head, I was like, they're going to freak out. They're going to hear this mic feedback, and they're just going to start running. And instead, they were just like, what is this? What are you doing?
So that was the beginning. What about tell me about Golden Age breakdancing or Ronald Reagan. What were you doing?
At some
someone saw you back then.
At some point, like late 2000s, early 2010s, I moved out to Austin after kind of like I was homeless for a bit and like floating around in Central Texas or Houston, and eventually moved out to Austin, like got a place, and just started because Austin, that's kind of just live music capital, whatever the fuck. So I just started playing a ton out there, and that was when it was more like I was definitely trying to be a cut up guy a little bit, but usually it would be like, let's do some cut up with some sort of. I feel like my use of vocals has always been a joke. Like, some people think it sounds cool or whatever, but like, first of all, I scream nothing. I'm just going like Cocteau Twins style, just mouth sounds, things that sound like words that are just like, rah, 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 and I always just thought power electronics was kind of funny. Like, for the longest time, I swear, people tell me they think I'm lying. For the longest time, I thought Bloody Minded was a parody.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so sick as a parody. I mean, I'm fine with it now, but as a parody, I was like, dude, you nailed it. And then I like kind of got to know more about like Solotruff, and I was like, oh, he's like trying. Yeah. There's a deep art to this man. So I always added the vocals kind of as a joke, kind of as like a faux posturing. Before there was like any nudity, the original version, I guess, of that would have just been I always had the shirt off, sunglasses, kind of a fake, like I'm this angry power electronics boy.
Yeah.
And it would just be kind of like a mix of making fun of that, yelling over noise that I more or less was trying to make sound good. But then there would always be sort of a twist at the end of like throw on like a pop song, like suddenly mid-noise set, Vanessa Carlton 1,000 Miles cover happens or something, just to kind of throw people off. And because, I mean, also because I just like karaoke. Karaoke is fun.
Yeah.
And that was kind of golden age. And I guess it's still that now. I just add a little bit of like jerking off with sandpaper at the end or something.
So I've been seeing on the internet and stuff like lately a lot of your current set. You're usually naked, right?
Naked or naked-ish. Sometimes I feel like it ends in the same place, but it starts differently. Sometimes it starts misleading, or sometimes there's a costume or more of a like the next set I'm doing, spoilers for the 2 people that would give a shit, is going to be like a fake out where I'm like, yeah, I don't do that anymore. I've grown up, and like I play like an ambient set, but then mid-ambient set I get interrupted by what I call cowboy mode, and once you go cowboy mode, you can't stop it. So I have to go cowboy mode, and that'll be that.
So you said you jerk off with sandpaper, but is it like I do get the sense, okay, you're obviously naked and doing like stuff like that, but I kind of also get the sense that it's not super sexual. Is that wrong?
Generally not, no.
Like it's kind of innocent in some way.
A little bit. It can be sexual if that's funny enough. It's just comedy to me. It's funny.
Okay.
I mean, I guess there's, as far as like my personal tastes go, I am a bit of an exhibitionist, obviously. I don't think that's a shock, but I made a tweet recently about this. It's not that I jerk off to people watching my set. It's more that I just jerk off to my body being public domain. The sets are definitely not meant to be like literally. I'm not carrying out a fetish. If there's any fucking jerking off, when I fucked the Sonic doll last year, that wasn't fun for me. It was just because I was like, I should do that.
Well, in doing all this, I mean, I've seen the photos, but there's always a little emoji or something like that covering your dick. Are you like when you say you're jerking off or fucking something? Are you actually doing that and like getting hard and like falling through, or is it just kind of like a symbolic kind of like?
It depends on the mood.
Okay,
at the Sonic show, yes, which is why it was a bit of a long set, because I looked at this crowd of like shitty crust punks in North Carolina, and I was like, y'all are not doing it for me. But given enough time, it happened, and so yeah, that one was a boner set. No, I didn't like fucking jizz in the Sonic doll, which is funny because that's the first thing after the set. I thought people would be mad. Like I was like, man, maybe I went too far with that. Like I gave a warning, like, hey, this is gonna be vulgar, etc. But still, some people don't want to see that, and the rest of the show wasn't like that, and I was like, damn, I'm going to do this set and then walk off stage, and someone's going to be like, you need to get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And the first thing that happened after I played is I walk off stage, and these 2 kids come up to me. They're like 19. I don't know who the fuck they were. Oh, wait, no, there's the kids from Nashville. They're called White Corset. They walked up to me, and they were like, did you come in the Sonic doll? And I was like, what the fuck? What a question. What a scenario of vision. Now, the sandpaper, I would say that was just an extreme halfie at best, because spoiler alert, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Jerking off with sandpaper sucks.
Yeah. What kind of reactions do you get from people? Because I mean, obviously there's the kind of standard tropes of extreme performance art or power electronics, which can really upset people, and they can be really like offended or like do you get that kind of reaction, or do you? I mean, I kind of feel like you're performing to people who aren't going to be offended by you, but might be offended by like other types of content. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I think most of my shows have been with people who already knew what the deal was and people who know me, so it's been fine. Really, the only negative reaction I got is one that I just take negatively, which is I've had people tell me like, oh, that was funny. You're really trying to like shock people. It's like G.G. Allen of noise or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, Gigi Allen should have been making cooler music. That is an aside. But when I realized he was around in like the 90s and just sounds like fucking shitty old punk, I was like, man, this guy kind of sucks, actually.
Yeah.
Why didn't he sound cool? But also, like, the goal is definitely not to, like, hurt anyone's feelings. If anything, old stuff I did, I was way more into, like, trolly teenage 4chan behavior. And I feel like as I've grown, first my reaction was like, breakdancing Ronald Reagan's dead. I'm too mature for this. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to be the edgy guy. But at some point I was like, I do sort of still have that in me to just kind of be a shithead, you know? So I was like, maybe the joke just needs to turn on me. And so usually the person getting hurt, person embarrassing themselves, whatever, is me. And that's kind of the goal. Like, I'm not trying to shock anybody. I don't want anybody to leave the room being like disgusted. It's more just like, I'm just, after years of being a fucking jokester on the internet, I'm like, let's just hurt me only now. I mean, I do want people to like it. Generally, my idea is I just want people to walk away, not saying the set was great or bad, but saying like, fuck, I'll never see that again. Like, how many other shows you're going to go to where a guy's like jerking off with sandpaper, you know? I just want to create that little moment for someone where they can just say, like, yeah, you know, in 2023, I saw this crazy thing. Like, that's it. That's really all I want.
Well, what's it sound like sonically? Because, like I said, like, the sunk cost stuff I've heard is, like, really, really good, like, fast, almost Japanese-style, cut-up harsh noise. Like, that's what
mostly kind of what my taste is. Like,
yeah, and that was kind of like what surprised me, not just because I was like, I saw some sunk cost stuff coming out several years ago, I think, on like Idiopathic or Monorail, and
I got a shout out to Kieran Aurora for that. I don't think sunk cost would really be a thing if it wasn't for Kieran, because when I told Kieran from Idiopathic that I was going to do that, he was just like, I'm in. Like, give me your material, and put out 3 or 4 things in mine. Yeah, and I heard it, and I was like, "Oh, this is like really solid, fucking razor sharp, harsh noise." And it was like, and then I read like some liner notes, and it was like Johnny Cash, also known as Breakdancing Ronald Reagan. I was like, Breakdancing Ronald Reagan, like I remember that name. Like, what the fuck? That's that same dude. It's like, what does Breakdancing Ronald Reagan sound like? I mean, it still can be noise. I would say the noise takes a back seat most of the time. And even when it's like, I mean, I joke about like, oh, the only thing I know how to do is hit the loud button. Obviously, I know a little bit about how to make noise the way I like to, hopefully. Yeah. But with Breakdancing Ronald Reagan, I hit the loud button. The noise is the noise is the punchline, really. Because noise is kind of funny and fun as a concept. Like, the fact that we like this, the fact that we're doing a fucking podcast about it's crazy. Like, about just like in the red white noise through fucking death metal pedal or whatever. That's kind of funny. And so a lot of times that is the joke, is just sort of like I exaggerated motions and I unmute the channel and it's just like, psh, and that's kind of it. And I'm just screaming, freaking out over it. But there's still some BRR sets will have more of a cut up element. It's just usually lost in the visual aspect of whatever I'm doing. That tends to kind of take hold. Obviously, it's kind of where my focus is. If you're getting covered in mustard jerking off or something, it's hard to play your gear. I mean, I did get a chaos pad recently for that reason, because I figured out I used to have one and I never tried this, but I sold it, and then years later I wanted to buy one and I was like, couldn't you just play that with your dick? And you can. So there will be times. Usually what I do is I'll cover Freak on a Leash by Korn, and then during the scatting part, I just take the chaos pad out and just play little fucking dick and white noise sounds off of it.
You have done that already?
I have. Your dick.
Okay.
Several times. I'll be doing it again shortly, I'm sure. that's the solo now.
This episode of White Centipede Noise Podcast is brought to you by Divine Severance and Willing Victim Distro. Divine Severance is a label releasing noise, power electronics, and drone, amongst other genres, always striving to delve further into the underground. Willing Victim is a major source of noise distribution in Australia, working with the best labels the world has to offer. When I was getting ready to interview you, and I posted on the White Centipede Noise Discord, interviewing Johnny Cash soon, and have any questions for him. A lot of people kind of reached out. I mean, a couple questions, which I'll get to later, but a lot of people just kind of commenting, like really mostly very positive things, saying like, you know what, Johnny is like the reason I got into noise.
I've heard that a lot. I will say, if I find out someone
doing shows.
If I find out someone's a breakdancing Ronald Reagan fan, though, red flag instantly. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I trust you.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people like, yeah, he was the guy in Austin back in the day, and you know, I do noise because of him, or you know, directly correlated with that. And a lot of people had very positive things to say about that. Honestly, a lot of people also had some things. It seems like everyone brings up like, yeah, I know some people have hard. Like, I know he's kind of hard to get along with, or I know he's kind of hard. Like I don't know. You watched if you watched the one with Henry the other day, he's like, say what you will about him, but like, so
I definitely, I'm both disappointed and proud that I think that will forever be my lineage, is that I'm the guy who the sentence about me begins with say what you will about him, but
well, why is that? Why would people say something about you? What is it?
To be fair, first and foremost, it's because I started when I was a teenager, and everything a teenager says is stupid. There's no smart teenagers. And especially I was a teenager of the early millennial era where like we started on forums and things were a lot more anonymous. It was more like, I think we didn't understand in the early aughts that later our digital footprint would just be life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I didn't set a lot of things because I was like 15 and I just could. You know, I'm like, oh, this account at Breakdancing Ronald Reagan, like that's not me. That's just me on the internet. I can just be an asshole for fun or whatever. Yeah. I can just decide, like, write a random person, be like, fuck you, your project sucks. Not knowing that later, all the time. To be fair, so did everyone else. This is my big defense, especially the Tronics era, is I was a shithead on Tronics. I was terrible. I was 14. You know how old every other shithead on Tronics was? Like 30. Like, they should have known better. That's all I'm saying. They were the adults there. They should have been like, what if I don't respond to the teenager?
Yeah.
Like, I got into it with, like, Wolf Eyes back in the day. I'm not going to elaborate on that one. That one's too controversial. But at the end of the day, my statements on all that is like, yeah, I was an asshole, but also Nate and crew should have been like, oh, wait, I'm arguing with a child. Let's just not respond to him. Yeah. Like, generally, if I'm walking down the street and a high schooler says, hey, you're gay, I'm not going to be like, I got to debate this kid. I got to give him my point. So I'll just be like, damn, that teenager's annoying, and walk away.
So you were like talking shit to people, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing it. I think I thought I was being funny, but obviously the joke was not, the joke doesn't work both ways. It was just funny to me. But also I was going through a lot in that time. I was like a teenage runaway. I was like homeless for a while. Sure. My mental state was not great. Not that it's the best now, but at least I'm like medicated. So, you know, I've always been like super manic depressive and like emotional, and just sometimes really, if anything, I've always told people it's like kind of a side effect of anxiety that I always fear everyone hates me. And it sort of developed over time that my response to that fear is like, well, they can't hate me if I hate them first.
Right.
So I'd be like, I think all these people who meet me are going to make fun of me, so I'm going to make fun of them. You know, that was sort of my line of thinking before I was medicated, was lash out first, because then it's like, you're not hurt when they lash out at you. It's like, I started this, fuck you, you know?
Right. Yeah.
That's getting on top of it. But in reality, everybody probably was just like, who's this new kid? He seems nice. And I was like, fuck you, asshole. Fucking Aaron Dillaway, more like Aaron. What did I post? I posted more like Aaron Dillhole gay. I said that once. I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever come up with. And he was just, I remember him replying. He was just like, what the fuck is, what? He was just mystified, not even insulted. It was like one time in Austin, one time I was walking through downtown Austin, and like, there's something about an insult that's not a deep cut that cuts deeper because you don't know what to do. When someone some shitty Texan drives by me in a truck and calls me like a slur or something, says I look gay or whatever, that I'm just like, it's so clear that guy's an asshole that I'm just like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But one time I was walking through downtown Austin, and this guy just stopped with his friends, looked me up and down, and he said, you look like a fucking dork, man. I was like, damn, that hurt. I don't know what to
That's
do with that. I was like, he really, like, he felt that when he said it. It wasn't cruel. It was just like, I gotta tell you, man, you look like a fucking dork. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah, that's not nice. That sucks. Have you patched things up with people that you had those kind of things back?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, I was on Noise Extra recently, and Gray is literally the man who banned me from the forum, so I think we're good. Actually, the first time I met Gray in person was hilarious because I was on tour, and it was my first time in LA, and we stopped by, it's now closed, but Vacation Vinyl, where Gray used to work, which, you know, a record store that had some cool shit. I think I picked up like a random Torturing Nurse tape there or something. Mm-hmm. But I just remember this guy who was there with us, like a local friend, was like talking to me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Johnny, you know who works here? That guy from the Tronics board. You should say what's up." And I just, you know, I assumed, I didn't remember what he looked like. I assumed he probably wasn't like literally working that day, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that guy hates me. He banned me from his forum. And then like the guy behind the counter looks up and he says, yeah, I did. And I'm like, oh no. That was our first like official meeting. And I think we're on good terms now. I think Gray's fine with me. We had a moment at the fest I booked last year because I booked him as Black Sand Desert at that. Yeah. And he was like, Johnny, are we just like friends now? And I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know. I guess so. And I don't think Phil ever gave a shit about the Tronics board at the admin side. I don't think he ever cared about like anyone's behavior. But as far as I know, Phil doesn't hold any ill will to me.
Okay.
Yeah, if anything, the bigger problem is a lot of people like me for that shit. And that's where, like, when I'm joking about liking me being a red flag or whatever, that's the shit. I'm like, no, you shouldn't like you're wrong. That is a bad take if you like that. Like, I played INC in 2020 in Miami, the International Noise Conference or whatever. And this guy, I'm like in line for the bathroom before I realized the bathroom was a different room and it was the Coke room. But that's a whole other Miami problems. And this guy is like standing next to me in line, and I don't even know who it was, but he was like, "Hey, are you Johnathan Cash? Are you breakdancing around REAGAN?" I'm like, yeah. And he's like, "Well, you're a legend, man." And I'm like, "Cool, thank you. That shit you said on the internet back in the day, you like to fuck with people." I was like, no. I don't want to be known as that professional fucking internet troll or whatever. But
that's funny. That's great. Yeah, I mean that also reminds me like on when Matt, Betke, and Justin were on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
They were like talking about how some like really preppy guy was like in the store wearing like a salmon polo or something like that, and just kind of like they were like about to ask him like if maybe he was like in the wrong spot,
wrong store, yeah.
And he like pulled up a CDR. He's like, "Fucking breakdancing around REAGAN" or something.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Whoa, shit!" Like,
I actually asked Betke about that because I was like, "Who was that guy?" To further my point about it being a bad look to be a fan of me, he was like, "Oh, it's this guy on Twitter. He's like an incel guy with a bunch of followers." And I was like, "No, I hate that. Don't let him buy my tapes. Tell him no."
That's funny.
I don't understand how you're an incel. When I was like 14, I was like homeless and not showering and had like 2 internet girlfriends. It's not that hard. Like, how are these people not getting laid? You see my noise set. If I can pull it off, anyone can.
Overthinking it, I think, maybe.
Well, they're just creeps, yeah.
Yeah.
In reality.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. Like, I've kind of had a similar experience. I don't really remember you back in the day being like a particular troll. I mean, I don't really remember. Maybe you were banned by the time I was on the.
I think so.
I think that's what. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it was because I feel like I just saw your name on a lot of like shows. Like it was like. But I don't think I remember seeing you post ever. So maybe you were banned by the time I was on the board. But it is interesting.
When I started doing shows too, that's when the hard reality hit of like you can't behave that way. Like if I want people to come to my show, I can't fucking tell them I hate them beforehand. Like not good marketing. So me in forums is like it's like someone who used to be an addict being around that substance. It's like I'm just like I can't. Like someone invited me. I think it was you invited me to the Scream and Ride forum that was made like a year or two ago, and I was just like, "That's gonna unlock something deep in me that can never come back." So I stayed away.
That's respectable. But it is cool. I mean, I think it is cool. Like that is one cool thing about like the modern age with, you know, Instagram and you know, like YouTube and stuff like that, whatever, like it is cool, like for me, for example, to see you just following you on social media, like I've known a breakdance like Ronald Reagan since back in the day. I knew you were kind of like a controversial guy, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and then like now like here you are in the flesh, and like your face and what you're doing now, and like seeing you.
Yeah, I'm just some guy.
Just some guy, yeah. I mean, that's.
I work from
I think
home
that's
at
really
a
cool. I
call
think it's really
center.
cool. What's that?
I just work from home in a call center, you know?
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
yeah, exactly. So, like I said, the people kind of talked about you being someone who was very kind of supportive and influential in Austin.
I mean, I do
early...
support in general. I want to book new projects and meet new people and stuff. Like, I think I jokingly gatekeep a little bit with, like, I don't know, like the techno guys or whatever. But generally speaking, like, I'm down for any new project to come my way. It probably will be booked.
Yeah.
You know?
But what was it that made you be the guy who books stuff? Because I mean, what motivated you to be the guy who's kind of carrying the weight? Because that's always like one person or two people that does that. It's a thankless job, and a lot of people just don't do it. A lot of people are just like, well, I'm just going to play shows, or I'm going to just, you know, kind of like, not that is it's not a bad thing, but, you know, have a more passive role in like, and you seem to be kind of the one who took the reins and like, hey, I'm going to make shows, you know, your festival, I want to hear about that. Like, what motivates you to do that?
I mean, partially because Austin sucks, and I moved there, and I knew of a lot of cool noise projects. I knew about like Dromaz, stuff like that, but nobody was doing anything. There was like a show a year when I first kind of came around and started hanging out. And so I was just like, well, I want there to be more shows, so I'm going to book them. But also, I mean, of course, there's just like when somebody starts a label, there's sort of generally a self-serving element that I was like, there needs to be more shows, and especially there's to be more shows with me on them. And instead of like begging to hop on every bill I saw posted, I was like, why don't I just book a show with me and my friends or whatever? Yeah. And that just sort of evolved over time, and I made good connections, started sort of off the books working at some places like Club 1808. Rest in peace. That was a good spot. They put up with a lot of bullshit. I didn't understand their rules at Club 1808. They only cracked down on me one time. And I did a lot of stupid shit there. I obviously, that's just kind of, I think I'm known for that at this point, making a mess, breaking shit, whatever. But one year of Sucks by Sucks West, the fest I used to do every South by, I booked, I mean, among other things, I booked Lisa Carver from Suck Dog, who did an all comedy set, no music, and it was just her, like, it was like a comedy cover set, and she was just covering all on stage meltdowns by comedians, including the Michael Richards one. And Club 1808 was an all black club, except like me occasionally helping with sound, so I was very nervous about that. And then also Eugenics Council played, which, you know, they're called Eugenics Council. That's already enough. I should have known better. But then on top of that, obviously there was like a literal mushroom cloud explosion in the middle of the room of like gunpowder set on fire. They were chucking the venue's chairs at people. I mean, they were in such a like rowdy mood that year, particularly that like Shane from Two Dead Sluts was playing with them on that tour. And when they showed up to Austin, Shane already had a broken arm just from like not a show. He just got like too drunk at a bar and like picked a fight with someone and like broke his arm. Yeah. So they show up with casts. I remember Dustin from Eugenics Council was like, hey man, I just want to ask if this is cool. We're all licensed gun owners and sometimes things get out of hand. Is that a problem? And I said, only if you tell me. Yeah. Because when the cops show up, we didn't have this conversation, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Then yeah, so it's like we got literal explosions. What do you mean,
from like gun- did they use guns during their set?
No, but I think their idea is, well, I don't know. I think it was mostly they were worried that like maybe there would be less of a police issue as much as there was just like someone was going to try to like beat them up or something.
Okay.
And you know, they wanted to start all this shit, but they didn't want to deal with it. So they're like, if someone actually is mad at us, get away from me. You know. But yeah, so it's like I got these gun carrying explosive eugenics guys. And then I've got like this older white lady just literally quoting Michael Richards on stage. So you would think that's what I got in trouble for. One of those two things. That night, the only thing I got in trouble for is this guy, Jim Baptizer, played, and he threw meat everywhere during his set, and some of it got on the walls and chipped the paint. And the owner was like, Johnny, nah, like, you can't be chipping the paint here. They're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that was also, the paint job was not good. Anyone who's been there would not say that it was known for its nice interior aesthetics. So I was like, you're mad about that? Dude, there was a mushroom cloud in here.
Maybe that was just it was a proxy.
And I do kind of want to slightly elaborate on that as an aside. I do want to say I just described a lot of edgy, horrible behaviors that I enabled.
Yeah.
I try not to do that now, first of all. I think as I've grown up, I'm like, damn, that is not what I want my name attached to. I do not want Johnny Cash Presents Michael Richards cover set to ever happen again. But also, like, I just was doing it because back then, this was like Obama era. Austin's a very like gentrified, neoliberal, expensive tech industry place.
Yeah.
And at the time, I felt like the breaking of the status quo was like, let's say things people don't like. Let's be, you know, un-PC or whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously, as times have changed, I've sort of moved away from that because I'm like, oh no, to be politically correct is just to be like super racist and shitty. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I thought I was breaking the mold of like, fuck all these like wealthy Austin white people. Let's piss them off. But now I'm like, oh no, all the wealthy white people, they love being mean.
Yeah. Sure,
so what if I'm just not an asshole?
Yeah.
But that year was particularly popping off. Oh, the Rita played that year too. That was good. That was a good year.
Cool.
David Liebehart and James Quall, too. That was an insane show. David Liebehart and James Quall from Tim and Eric, they played that one, too.
Oh, wow.
Insane night. One of the most fucked up fests I've ever booked.
Crazy.
Well, because I knew David's backing band because they used to play my birthday every year, and they're just like, they're all nice. I mean, David's on another planet, metaphorically, maybe literally, but that was the first time I met James Quall, and I just, like, he never broke character. I don't know if it is a character. Because, like, I'm outside talking to their, like, tour manager, paying them the, like, however many $100 they wanted to play. And James walks by with, like, he's got a little drink in his hand, a little whiskey or something. And I'm like, oh, hey, James, are you having fun? You having a good time? And he's like, well, you know, the Irish, they love their whiskey, and just walks away. And I was like,
yeah.
You're not on stage, man. Just talk. You could just be James. You don't have to do a Quall bit right now. But I don't think a non-James Quall exists.
What was that fest all about? Are you still doing that? I mean, obviously you're not doing that anymore, but you're not in Austin, but I mean, like, what was the concept of that? How long did that run?
Sucks By was it was 5 years, and then I took a year off and brought it back one more time. So I guess I did 6 of them. It was just, you know, South by Southwest is a big music festival in Austin that's progressively shifted from a local community thing to being fully corporate, expensive, whatever. Lady Gaga on the Doritos stage, that sort of shit. So, you know, everybody in Austin, I'm not the first by a long shot to be like, I'm going to do a free anti-South by Southwest fest. And I was number 268 to be like, I got this idea. It's going to be a South by Southwest fest, but it's free and it's anti-South by Southwest. Yeah. You know, I just thought... And I just...
Were there any others named that? Same thing? Did you ever come across one of the same name?
Well, not Sucks by Sucks, but there was Fuck by Fuck You. There was like a queer event called Gay by Gay Gay. Stuff like that. Everyone at some point wakes up in Austin and is like, I've got an idea for a South by Southwest parody. It's just like a rite of passage.
As a performer who does like naked and fluid-oriented performances, have you ever collaborated with others who do? Because I mean, there's similar type. I mean, I'm not saying
there is, but
I feel like I want to say, like, I feel like it's a tradition. Like, it's not like it's a tradition. I think, you know, you mentioned Gigi Allen. I mean, I think he's probably one of the.
Unfortunately, that's everyone's big reference point. But I mean, I'm always like, yo, John Luis Costas. That's a bigger reference point, I think. Yeah, I love Costas.
Yeah, exactly. Have you collaborated with other artists that kind of have a similar style performance, or do you ever beef with them?
Not yet to either, but we'll see. The thing is, I only really started going full cowboy mode or whatever like the last couple years.
Okay.
Which was really because of like COVID and stuff. I feel like after COVID, sort of like the, you know, show started coming back or whatever, I had this sort of, my feeling at the time, like if you had asked me in like 2019 to do a set like I do today, I would be like, no, that's like putting too much out there. What if people are upset about it? What if people don't like it? But I think the thing I realized is like literally overnight, all shows and like live appearances just disappeared for almost 2 years. And I was like, what if that happens again? What if it happens again and it's more permanent this time? What if I die during it and I don't get to do every little stupid idea I've ever had? So I've just sort of come to realize, like, I'm just going to do it now while I can, you know, and just say fuck it. Because also, COVID also kind of taught me that, like, and I mean this in a good way, none of this matters, really. Like, at the end of the day, the fact that, like, me and another noise artist don't like each other or someone doesn't like my set doesn't really matter if all shows are banned and there's, like, a global pandemic killing millions, you know? Yeah. So I was like, why don't I just put it all out there, do whatever I want to do, because whatever consequence isn't as bad as, like, not doing what I want to do. Basically, not being able to, like, express myself, do my silly little set or whatever. Like, I would rather do that and take the risk of it. But that being said, no, I have not worked enough with people that I want to yet. I'm still kind of getting there. Obviously, I just haven't been traveling a ton because of work, too. That's a big part of it. I did do a thing. I did sort of the opposite of what you're saying once, though, which was pretty good. Last year, I played with Pat Merch, Sisters, if you know that project. Yeah. We did a set together, and he was in the middle of moving and, like, had all his stuff kind of packed up in fucking garbage bags and shit, you know? And he was just like, we came up with, like, for the set, I progressively keep stripping as he keeps adding more clothes. So by the end, he's wearing like 6 coats and I'm naked and we're both just hitting death metal pedals and shit. And I thought that was good. If anything, I like that even more than playing with someone who's as fucked up as me. I like the idea of, I want someone to be like drab and boring and be my straight man, so to speak, you know, like a comedy duo or some shit. You have done quite, I do want, and this, I have not pitched it to him yet. I really do want to just do, because you know the Rita likes to fucking amplify the girls' tights, whatever. Oh my god, speaking of funny, just tangent for a sec. When I booked him in Denver last, he asked me if I could go to the Denver School of Ballet and ask for used shoes for him. That's maybe the worst request I've ever received. I was like, Sam, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that.
Did you do it?
No, I did not do that. I think I just took him to a TJ Maxx and he bought some tights on sale. I was like, dude, that's what you're getting. He was like, can you ask any women to bring tights? Can you get these shoes? I'm like, no. It's just not a good look for me as being the guy like, hey, you guys have any like fine ladies out there got used clothing to give me? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's like, but I have always wanted to pitch an idea that's just like a Rita set, but the sound source is just like me jerking off or something, just to see how far he's willing to go with his own like weird sex pervert bullshit on top of mine. I feel like he would do it.
He might. Well, I don't know about who knows?
Well, it's not like he's jerking me off. He's just playing
but I mean,
pedals.
If you incorporated maybe ballet or nylons, I mean, I was really...
Well, maybe I am wearing nylons while I'm jerking.
I really want to get the release from him. I don't have a release where he took ballet classes himself.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah, and I love that.
Mic'd his legs or something like that, and there's like a photo, like the back covers like his legs, like in ballet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I love that shit. Fucking awesome. Like
I would love to noise that's like trying to be like porn or sexy or edgy or whatever, but like with Sam, you just know it's like, nah, that's just Sam. Like you could be doing that if no one was watching, you know, and that's why it makes me like it more.
That's cool. That's yeah, but I mean, you have done some, I'm sure quite a few collaborations with other people, but you have collaborated with the Rita, right?
Yeah. That was just like a noise set. That was just like, I think the only funny thing I did is this was in the era of like dabbing being a big thing, not weed dabbing, but the other dab. And I was like, I'm just going to do a serious noise set with the Rita, but at some point I'm just going to like hit the dab. And I did that and everyone just started cracking up during like an otherwise serious set.
But I feel like you're the only one who could, he must have some sort of respect for you because like,
he seems to like me. I don't know.
I don't think anyone else. I was surprised. I don't think he would like do that kind of collaboration with another kind of like silly
I can't imagine.
project
Yeah,
or
I don't
person.
know.
I've never seen that from him, for example.
I mean, I think kind of, it's just like, he does like the actual noise stuff he's seen me or heard me do, and I think that's obviously the main barrier for entry with him and with a lot of people. Yeah. But I don't know, he's a pretty funny guy. I've had some funny times. We ordered the same chicken crispers at Chili's together. You know, we got more in common than you'd think. He fucking, okay, this is a story I'm sure he would hate just because it's so dumb, but my favorite Rita story, because this is now a Rita podcast, is when he stayed with me in Denver, me and Tyler, blind date, we got like some McDonald's delivered or something, and we had like a 20-piece nugget or some shit, and you know, we were sharing it with him and my ex-wife and stuff, but at some point there was one singular nugget left. And I just, like, I was full. Everybody was fine. We kind of just forgot it was there. And then Sam did this move where he's just like, he looks down at the bowl and he's like, I was like, motherfucker, took the last nugget. You didn't even ask. You just took it. I was like, you gotta ask. You gotta say, yo, you having the last nugget? But Sarita, man, he's the star. You know, he gets the last nugget. I would have let him have it.
Yeah,
but he it's not that he didn't ask, it's that he knew he should. The looking back and forth, I'm like, you knew you should just ask, man. You can have the final nugget. You've earned it.
Who have been some of your... Wait, no, okay, so I keep kind of getting distracted from the question about your encouraging of other people. No, I didn't.
I mean, we kind of addressed it. I just started talking about Club 1808 because that was
we talked about that. But
that was a central venue of that.
Yeah. Who might be some people that, you know, influenced you or had a positive
oh my God.
positive role on you're getting involved in noise early in the day? I mean, you're obviously very on the line early as a young kid, but who are some of your kind of...
What's funny is the one who influenced me most I've never spoken to. I think he's even like maybe Facebook friends with me, but I know nothing about him and I've just never really felt the need to engage. But my trajectory with noise, experimental music, whatever, was like I was a metal kid completely. I was into like metal, death metal, grindcore, etc. Like to me, when I first heard noise, I was like, this is the logical next step. I thought like music needs to keep getting heavier. And so I was like, damn, this gore grind ain't working anymore. Like I need some stronger shit. And honestly, what happened, I mean, I knew about like Merzbow and stuff pretty early because like you just kind of course you do, you know, like, and I was into like Relapse Records. So I knew about him from there, but I don't think my head fully like wrapped around what it was or why to enjoy it until one day I was just on Soulseek back in the day, just downloading. I was just searching for any band with anal in the name because there's so many. And anal cunt, anal blast, anal massacre, anal mayonnaise, anal sperm shit was the one I found. And I was like, oh, this anal sperm shit, that's probably another like grindcore band, noisecore, whatever. That's going to be cool. I like that stuff. And it was just like the shittiest raw home recorded noise, just like screaming in a computer mic with like white noise in the background. And that was like the moment I was like, I like noise. Yeah. I've never even talked to the guy. I don't know anything about him. He seems pretty whatever. I think he's into like
Harsh Noise Wall now. That was his project.
Yeah. It was just some guy, some random internet noise guy I happened to run into, and that was like not my first noise, but that was the one that was like it connected with my teenage noisecore edgy boy brain with the funny name or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, why do we need guitars and drums? That's stupid. Get that shit out of here. Like, let's just get to the good part where it's loud. Cool. That was a big one. And then of course, then I sort of heard things like Japanese American Noise Treaty. Garo Gary Giggy and Hannah Tarash were big ones for me, both on a performance and sound level. Yeah. I also liked Negative Land a lot, and obviously that's influenced like my humor. I think maybe, honestly, I should give the most credit to Cock ESP because they did a split with me when I was like 14, very new to noise, and obviously they kind of represented everything I really like took to in noise, the humor, the absurdity of it all, the ridiculous performance, the audio just being, you know, just pure trash, loud, good noise, you know. Yeah. They did a split with me when I was like 14, which they really shouldn't have. My material was terrible. And I think it's funny because our paths haven't crossed a ton. We've only played a few shows together, but like that probably is the one. That's probably the one, like the bigger name that really like pushed me to be like, oh, this is what I do now. Like, this is serious.
I should invite Emil on the podcast.
You should, yeah, he's great. Or get Jason Wade would be funny.
Wait, no, he lives in San Francisco, right? Or in Oakland?
I think so. Yeah, I haven't like run into him in years, but
Jason Wade, yeah, I should invite him.
I mean, I don't really know him that well, but he's like the personality of the more modern era cocky SP. I feel like he's the crazy one. That would be a great guest. I love him. I should also just give a shout out to General Texas Noise. Obviously, growing up in Houston with like Black Leather Jesus, Concrete Violin, Rusted Shut. Obviously, that was kind of what really made it like a big deal to me. Is like discovering this genre, and within a few weeks discovering like not only is there a community in the city I grew up in, but like it's one of the better communities.
Yeah. Like
really prime era Houston Noise, TEF, Concrete Violins, all of them, like insane. Rotten Peace, you know, it's like it's I don't think if I grew up in any other city I would have gotten as like deep involved as I did discovering that I'm fucking like 10 miles away from Richard Ramirez or whatever. Like that was a big deal. I was like, wow, I gotta do this. Like, yeah,
I wanted to ask you about that too. Is the Texas Noise? What is it that you think characterizes that type of Texas Noise? Because that phrase gets used a lot. And I kind of have some ideas, but like, what is it to you? And how did you place? Like, did they accept you? Were you doing noise at the time? How did they place you in there?
No, because I didn't really talk to him at first. Honestly, I didn't get to know most of the Houston crew till after I left.
Okay.
Because I was so young and kind of just nervous, and like, you know, we were talking about earlier, like thinking Richard Ramirez is fucking this crazy bondage art guy, you know, like I didn't know how to approach that being like 15-year-old runaway who just sort of sits on a computer all day. So every time I'd hear about a show at like Super Happy Funland or Southmore House, I would like, I think I only went to one and I just like stood outside and left early because I was just like too nervous.
Yeah. Especially
being young and, you know, everyone's like older and weird. Yeah, I didn't know what to do in a room full of like drunk 30-year-olds at a noise show, you know. I was like, maybe mom come pick me up. Yeah. But I mean, they were receptive and very cool once I started doing more shows. I mean, the first big fest I booked, Richard and GX from the Haters played together. It was a free event. They both just came on their own time to this random kids fucking show and had a great time, you know. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Kevin Novak, TEF, is like probably my favorite of the Texas crew. He's always been really supportive. Obviously, Greg. You had Greg on here. Yeah. Greg, if anything, if anybody personifies Texas Noise, it's either him or Goat.
Dude,
just the pure rowdiness and like there's something about Texas Noise has this level of like it's similar to me in the way that like incapacitants are like salarymen with real jobs who just like go ape shit at night, and I feel like that's kind of the Texas vibe. I feel like the Texas vibe is a lot of these like older weird dudes who like are pretty reserved most of the time. Like Andy from Goat is very normal. One time he brought his fucking like wife and stepson to the show and threw a metal table right in front of him, almost hit him. It's like they show up, they're the most normal guys in the room, and then they just go ape shit, and then they're done. And they're like, that was my night. I did my thing. I'm going home. I feel like that's totally, Greg is totally a family man. He's like he's a businessman. He's like probably he's the only noise level I've ever done a release for who's mailed me a check for like earnings. And I was just like, a check? Like, first of all, you're paying me? But you're paying me by a check? You got a fucking LLC, man? Like,
he's serious like that. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate, I feel like Texas Noise, particularly that kind of area is it's like really kind of like straight. I don't want to say like macho, but it's just like like, hey, we're straightforward. We're like, the noise is heavy. It's not like too convoluted or like subtle. It's just fucking good and heavy and loud. Yeah. And
there's very little subtlety. There's not many ambient intro to the loud cut up part. It's just like, let's just do that part.
Yeah,
it's all guitar solo. It's Texas Noise is the guitar solo of Harsh Noise.
Yeah, and the people are down to earth and straightforward and like you know, I really like that. I think Dada Drumming is like one of my favorite labels. I mean, I just think just in terms of how they operate, how Greg runs it from his personal taste, also how he runs it with artists. I just always like, also not trying. Texas Noise also seems to have zero interest in trying to be cool or like
yeah, exactly.
Like it just
Texas
is what
noise feels like it would exist if we all stopped listening. It would just keep going.
Exactly. It's not following any sort of trend.
I think if all of us collectively organized a Richard Ramirez boycott, he would still put out 10 new side projects tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's just like that. These people are so drawn to do it that like everything else is just blank. They don't see anything but like, we're making this. It's happening.
Yeah.
And I think Greg's the same way. I mean, he's trying to run like a pro, almost like company level music label, but I'm positive if the next Greg tape sells 0 copies, he's going to release another one.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I put on the Discord, I asked people if they had questions for you, and I got a lot of people just like, someone wrote here, if it wasn't for Johnny, I don't think I'd be playing Noise today. He was the first person to book me and has continued to show support over the years and put me on shows. Despite how some people feel about him, I still love the guy. Looking forward to seeing him next month. A lot of comments like that. And also another guy wrote, I just remembered I used to run a net label called Far From Showbiz.
Oh, fuck yeah. Far From Showbiz, yeah.
With a friend in the early 2000s. If I remember correctly, we released a Breakdancing Ronald Reagan album in 2004, 2005, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. It was like 04, 05. It was like when I was very new, and I want to say it was one that was like mostly computer noise.
I clearly recall approaching it as a curious oddity at the time without giving it much thought, but it was wild even then compared to the plethora of weird noise that was coming out at the time, early MySpace days.
Yeah, that was the era. And it was weird. It was weird sounding noise because I was just really... There is something to be said about, like, nowadays, I guess I'm kind of a gear guy. I like cool pedals. Yeah. When I go to a show and I see the right pedal board, I'm like, oh, this would probably be sick, you know?
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about noise that's made by people who don't know the fuck they're doing. That's just amazing. Yeah. And I definitely, not saying what I did back then was amazing, but I listen to it now and I'm like, I don't know how I did that. Like, because I was just such a fucking idiot that I was just like... turning everything every which way, trying to make any sound I could, using like Fruity Loops, a practice amp, like one pedal. I was like, I don't know how, like, I knew what noise sounded like, but I was like, I don't know how to make this. I'm just gonna try though, and it was just nonsense, and it was kind of sick. I found a track recently that I kind of just want to re-release. It's like my first like proper like long form noise track. It's like a 7-minute thing that I remember I spent like months on. It kind of sucks, but it kind of rips. Yeah. It's just the weirdest, like, what are you doing? Like, why is the audio cutting out at random on the left side? What is this oscillator noise? Like, why is it too loud, but then, like, so loud the audio just starts clipping out of existence? Like, what? Yeah. What happened? What happened here?
Yeah. Well, how did you transition from being, like, not knowing what you're doing to what you're doing now? Because the sunk cost stuff, at least, is very, very, it's very, very technically proficient, very, like, sonically...
experience. I mean, practice, experience. But it took a long time. I mean,
so you were trying to do that. I mean, you haven't just been going through these years being like, oh fuck it, like I'm just gonna.
No, I've always wanted to just get better at it in general. I mean, if anything, that's what in some ways motivated not only the performance aspect, but like the shitty like being trolly online is like. It's so much, and that's why I don't really respect people who are like edgy anymore, is like realizing as an adult, like it's such an easy cop out to just like, instead of being notorious for being talented, what if you're just notorious for being really mean? It's so easy. I tell people even now, like every time I practice or work on a new noise tape or whatever, I'm like, it'd be so much easier if I just went online and said like a bad word. Yeah. More people would know what I'm up to if I was just a fucking asshole than if I was like trying, you know? And when you're a kid, you take the easy route. And it's the same thing with the performance. I mean, I do the performances I do because I love doing them. It's fun. But also, I mean, I was telling Gray about this on Noise Extra because he was like, it's crazy that you just like put it all out there. You're like naked, jerking off. I'm like, that's the easy part. Playing noise that's good is fucking hard. Yeah. Fucking once your dick's out, the set's fine. You know? Right. But true. If you put me in front of gear and I just have to keep you engaged for 15, 20 minutes, that's a lot of work. So sometimes I'm like, what if I just show my butt?
Yeah, but it seems like you're focused on doing both. And then you're really like...
The Masana video, Kingdom of Noise, where I think it's on the Kingdom of Noise one, where he just shows his shaker box and kind of explains his setup a little bit. That was kind of my big one, where I was like, oh, that's how they do it. And from there, kind of figured out what things sound like, etc.
Cool. I've never seen that. I never knew about that. That sounds awesome.
I think it was in Kingdom of Noise. I don't remember. It's in one of the old, like, back in the day, you know, early YouTube video rips of noise.
Yeah.
And because he shows the shaker, he, like, opens it up, and I think he shows a couple of his pedals and stuff.
Cool.
And that was the first time I had it just, like, explained to me by somebody who, like, sounded like what I wanted to sound like.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, that rules.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like you focus on both, and I think that's really cool that, you know, you do because, yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people over the years do crazy stuff on stage, and the noise is, I mean, Cocky SP.
Yeah, or they just don't record at all sometimes.
Yeah.
There's so many projects that are just a live project and they do nothing else. And
yeah.
I'm like, damn, I kind of want a CD of this, though. I want to know what happens in the studio. I mean, I think recording's more exciting as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love the live set and you can kind of do anything with a live set, when I see someone do something like, do you remember Fucking Bastards for back in the day? They were like another weird costumey noise act.
Is it like pronounced? Is it like spelled weird?
Yeah, it's like FCKN, ESTRDS, something like that. They're from like, I don't know, from fucking European place. But they were, whenever I saw footage of them, they were a very visual act, and I was like, damn, I gotta know what this sounds like recorded. And recorded, it's great. It's just fucking nonsense. Like, cool. It comes from no standpoint that makes sense. Or like Smell and Quim. Smell and Quim were huge to me when I was like learning about noise. Yeah. And kind of same thing. You see the ridiculous art, you see the ridiculous presentation, and the fact they translated it to a ridiculous album is like, I love this.
Yeah.
What is it? Ron Lessard, I will give credit for being the guy who sent me probably one of my first like favorite noise albums and one of the first noise albums I ever heard that I hated. Because I did a trade with Ron where I just sent him one of my CDs when I was like 14, and I just ripped out a bunch of my pubic hair and put it on the CD. To which he responded in an email, thanks, I'm wearing your pubes right now. I was like, thank you, Ron. But he sent me back, two of the things he sent me back, Diameter of Elvis's Colon by Smell and Quim. When I heard that, I was like, that is still to this day is one of my favorite noise CDs ever. It's one of the pure ones, I think. And he also sent me one of the like Thurston Moore guitar drone whatever CDRs. Yeah. And that was the first time I heard like a noise thing, and I was like, damn, this sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Thurston. I'm sure he's a nice man. I've never really listened to Sonic Youth, but that turned me off. I was like, damn, this is the first time I've disliked noise. I feel like when you're young and new to noise, it's all sick.
Right.
Like any fucking idiot can plug in a Metal Zone and you're like, yes.
Right.
You know?
For sure.
So really, it's like, props to Thurston for being the first man to make me hate a noise album.
How seasoned were you at that time? Like
a couple years in or something. Okay.
Yeah, that's when you start to, I think.
Yeah, start to figure out like I kind of don't like this. I do like this.
Yeah.
Like that's when I started discovering like power electronics, and I was like, there's so much about this I like, and there's so much I just absolutely hate.
Yeah.
I mean, I like, Death Pile or whatever. Yeah. The good PE is good. But, oh my God, it's hard to watch.
Yeah. So someone asked, they wanted to know, well, okay, back to kind of performance related. Someone wanted to know, how do you find the courage to do what you do on stage?
I was terrified for like 20 years and just did it one day. Once it's done, it's done. That's what it comes down to. They can't see your dick twice. I only got one of them, I don't know. Yeah, once it's done, it's done. That's really it. It's just... Also, like... I mean, of course, there's moments where I, like, last minute of the show, I'm like, do I really want to do this? Like, I have my doubts still to this day. I don't show up confident that, like... this is the best decision I've ever made. But yeah, I think that's really it. The first time I got like fully nude, and that's really all I did. I didn't do anything else crazy. Was at INC in 2021 or 22?
Really? So recently?
Yeah, it was recent. I've just been so active lately that it feels like forever. Like I played with a friend of mine from Texas recently, and he was like, "Oh, I've seen your dick 100 times." I'm like, "No, you haven't. Like you literally haven't." Yeah. But I've gaslit the noise world's brain into being like, oh yeah, we've always seen Johnny naked.
I thought that. I was just like, I thought that.
No, I just normally the only thing I would do is like maybe like shirt off, do the like sunglasses thing, kind of posture,
Yeah.
But no, that was only like a year ago that I fucking dropped trowel the first time. I was so nervous about it. Not so much, I don't care what people think of my body, but I was nervous people would be like offended or like uncomfortable. Because, people have like sexual traumas and stuff, and I don't want to like trigger that in anybody. I don't want people to
I
take my presence as like threatening.
Yeah, I mean, I do find that pretty interesting. Because you seem to be kind of someone who's fairly considerate to those kind of things.
Nowadays, I mean, I'll be the first to say I was not before.
Sure, but nowadays, I get the sense. But at the same time, you're going in a direction which also nowadays you have to admit is kind of not as
treading
certain waters, and I don't think it's as easy or tolerated to do a naked noise set now as it was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. In terms of like,
well, part of it is the people I book are not like an all-white dude, straight dude show. So that already adds to it, as I think people understand this is not coming from the perspective of like a cis, straight, normal, quote-unquote guy. Like, I'm not just some like creepy fucking Patrick Bateman dude on stage or whatever, you know? But also, I've always told people, I'm not the best about doing like the content warning thing. I try to, but some sets for sure I've just sort of not forgotten to say it, and like I hope nobody was upset that they got surprised by obscene content or whatever. But I've generally always tried to tell people before, during, and after, like, this is what's going to happen. If you don't like it, that's totally cool. And if you need to talk to me about it after, that's also totally cool. I mean, there's been a couple people who were like offended by it, and that's like totally valid. Like, they have every right to be. It's uncomfortable. I mean, it's uncomfortable for me. That's really my defense when people are like, I don't know, the whole like you jerking out with sandpaper, that's a bit much. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm the one doing it. It hurts. It is a bit much. It hurts. Rubbing myself raw.
Yeah. Another person on Discord wanted to know, what's your favorite budget pedal for noise?
Oh my God. That is a good question, because I've always been a budget pedal guy. I've only recently bought a few nicer things. Like, I've always been a fucking, Behringer, whatever. I mean, I hate that my answer is going to be the obvious one to anyone who, like, buys fuzz pedals.
what's going on like in the near future and in LA and in terms of shows? I mean, you seem to be very, very active.
I'm trying to scale it back a little because last year I really dived in. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to book a fest this year. I'm still deciding. Because as fun as it was last year, it was also like, I mean, it's a lot of work. It always is. And there was a part of me that was like, back in the Austin days, I would put so much energy into that stuff. I think that's why when I left, I ended up kind of hating it a little bit for a while and almost wanting to just quit entirely because I like overexerted myself. And I want to try to balance that better and not like if it's not fun for me to be doing those shows, why am I doing them? You know? Right. But there's stuff coming up. I mean, I'm booking some, I'm playing some. There's a couple weeks from now, I'm playing this thing out in Joshua Tree that's like an outdoor experimental festival. That's going to be the one with the cowboy mode set, spoiler alert. Cool. And later in April, Handbag Factory, which is like a legendary spot out here that's been closed since like a month or two pre-COVID. They're reopening. I don't know if long-term, but they're doing like a 3-day fest that's like, that's going to be a big deal. It's going to be like all the hits of LA noise. Like everyone's going to be there. It's going to be great. And then April, the only other big thing I have coming up late April, I'm going to End Times, playing that one this year. Me and my partner, Emmy, who goes by Slime Queen Bingo, we have a project together called Kiwi Cube that's playing. I don't know how to hype it up because it could be... We've done sets that were just like pretty good noise sets. We've done sets where I got my crotch tattooed while they played. And we've also... Notoriously, I think almost every set we did together either started or ended with a huge fight because I'm impossible to work with. There's a reason I've always been solo. I'm the worst guy to have a project with. I'm so fucking manic and annoying and emotional. And I'm like, chances are I'm going to book us 10 shows and then day of I'm going to not want to play any. And then I'll get there and one thing will be slightly wrong and I'll be like, I'm going to fucking kill myself. I'm out of here. Yeah. And then the next day I'll be like, let's play tomorrow. Let's do it again. But we're playing that, and that's going to be a blast. I love End Times, Bob rules. That's probably consistently been the best noise fest I've ever been a part of. Yeah. Have you played it yet? You need to play it.
No, I haven't. I never have.
We haven't even played together yet.
No.
I think every time I've been to... Where are you from? Minneapolis?
Minneapolis.
Yeah, every time I think I was in Minneapolis, I don't think you were there. I think it was... Because I know you were floating between for a while.
Yeah.
No, so I thought that was funny. I was like, damn, I don't think I've ever actually met this dude, but we've probably been in the same rooms with the same people. Definitely, I've played probably with every Minneapolis person you know.
Yeah.
I had a meltdown last time I was in Minneapolis. I freaked out.
Are you connected with like, or were you connected with like Monsters of Pot? Do you remember them?
No, actually, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember who I went through last time. I think last time was fucking Straight Panic.
Yeah.
He's mad at me now. He says I cold shouldered him because I didn't want to talk about my Bloody Minded shirt. But I think I was just setting up.
Oh, you mean at the show?
Obviously, my shoulders warm, man. Okay. My shoulders warm as fuck. But I think literally he was like, that guy, he was a diva. And I'm like, I think I was just stressed out. And I was like, I think at the end of the night I just started crying because I was so stressed out. It's like, but that's the thing people need to learn, not just about me, but in general. Every noise guy I've always thought at the beginning was like too standoffish or like an asshole. I just came to find out was just like psychotic. Like they were just like, I remember the first few times I met Rusty Kelly in Austin, I thought he was always like too cool to talk to me or something because he didn't come out a lot. I didn't see him around. But then one day I ran into him at a grocery store and I just said, hey, Rusty. He was like, huh. And I was like, oh man, I get it now. You're just very shy. And so many noise people who I thought were like assholes or like shitty to me, I've come to realize just were fucking weirdos who didn't express themselves well, myself included.
That's true. I think it's important to remember to give people a benefit of the doubt, and they're probably just, if someone's acting weird or
well, it's so cliche to say I don't like something. I don't like being the guy who's like, you gotta be crazy, man, to make noise. But, like, I'd say there's a pretty high crossover of craziness in the noise scene. So you really do gotta assume when you meet someone, you're not, this guy ain't got a CEO brain, man. This guy's on some other shit that doesn't make no fucking sense. You know?
What would you characterize as being some of the main differences between what's going on in the noise scene now versus say like 2010?
I mean, I think just most of us have fucking matured. That's the biggest one. I think we're all kind of better people nowadays. I think people are starting to be more comfortable with like who they are. I mean, I made a post about this recently that just like I have been mostly so warmly received for doing these like weird deviant ass sex pervert fucking sets or whatever, just like fully open book expressing every aspect of my character, personality, my body, my mind, and everyone's just been like, that's chill. You know, and I think that's sort of changed. I think back in like the late aughts, early 2010s, we were still a little closer to like a Gen X mindset of being like sort of progressive, but not really getting it. I feel like the difference is 2010 Johnny and 2010 Johnny's noise scene would say, I like gay people, but I don't want to kiss them. 2023 Johnny and Johnny's noise scene would say, come out tonight, I'm sucking dick on stage. Okay. I think we have advanced, and it's great. Sucking dick, cool. Metaphorical or literal, sometimes both. Also, you know, I've made the joke 1,000 times, noise shows, live music is all just jerking off anyways. Cut out the middleman, just start jerking off.
Do you think it's more unified or more splintered than it was back then?
I think it's feeling a little more unified. I mean, there are splinters, and there's still people who don't like me, and there's people I definitely don't like. And sometimes I do see a flyer where, like, I'm a little disappointed that it's, like, a good friend of mine playing with someone who's, like, really not cool with me or whatever. That still exists. That's going to exist in every scene. But I don't know. I've just come to realize, like, the community's grown. I think COVID helped. I think COVID was kind of a big reset button. I think we were, at least the era, I was in Denver briefly before COVID hit. Like, that was kind of my transitional period between Texas and here. I was out there for about 2.5, 3 years. And there was a point where shows became such a chore. There were so many little micro dramas, little scene things. And it just sort of stopped being fun. And I feel like being without it for like 2.5 years really refreshed everyone's brain and kind of put the priorities to the forefront of like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. This is the compromise I'm comfortable with. And I think people have gotten better about, like, problematic people can learn from their mistakes and play shows now rather than being fully exiled. But at the same time, I think people are comfortable setting boundaries more and saying, this guy's a fucking asshole. Like, I don't want that here, you know? Yeah. And in the past, I think I would have just sort of let all or nothing fly would be my mindset. And I didn't know what to do and how to manage what I'm comfortable with whatever my boundaries are or other people's. And I think we've all gotten collectively a little better about boundaries, comfort zones, just figuring out how to like make friends, you know? Things like that. I think it's gotten better. And I just feel the noise scene as at large is less malicious lately to others and to itself, because there's been plenty of times noise is like eating itself almost.
Right.
Like there was an era, I feel like there was an era where, I mean, because I started, what was really active when I started was like that like early aughts West Coast scene, which was very, you know, Zoom, Tralfaz, lots of pedals, lots of freaking out on stage.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a time where people got tired of that and they were like only into serious, then they were like only into funny again. And then there's like back to serious. I feel like there was a label there was an era where labels in like the late 2010s, early 2020s started becoming all black and white images of skulls again or whatever, and just like anti-fun. I remember someone heard a tape of mine, not naming any names, but I know they saw the tape on a shelf at a store and they picked it up and they're like, oh, this is probably some funny shit, right? And I'm like, what if it is? What's wrong with that? And I feel like we found a really good balance lately where anything I go to that's like a harsher bill is still fun. It's not all arms crossed with like a fucking swastika projected behind them or some stupid shit. But at the same time, if I go to the funny show, I still see people who are like very passionate about listening and making noise and like know what they're doing, even if their performance is more about like the visual accompaniment or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think the balance is getting better, and I'm really pleased with it. I mean, End Times, you know, pat on the back for them. Bob recently added my friend Jackson, who has always helped with the fest. I don't know if you know him. Jackson JHK is his project.
Oh, yeah.
He's like kind of co-producing the fest now. Cool. And I think they've come up with a really good mix of like Bob's got the older heads and the more academic people. Jackson's got more of like the younger rowdy crowd. Jackson's got this like gore grind background. So there's like a lot of crossover happening. Nice. And it's all been done in a way that I think I think people did it before, but I think people are getting better at it now. I feel like back in the day, a mixed bill noise show would be like, let's put all the quiet people first, let's put all this here. And now I feel like when you go to like a mixed bill noise show, you get a little of everything, every set. It doesn't feel like this is the serious guy's part, and then later in the night we get harsher, or the harsh guy opens because that shit's dumb, and then the real shit happens later. I feel like the dumb shit and the real shit is just every other set. It's a perfect mix.
Nice. Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. Well, glad to hear things are popping across the U.S., it seems, but particularly in L.A.
I think so, yeah.
I'd love to visit
generally,
LA.
I feel like I just go online and I'm pleased with everything I see. Like, there's always something cool being announced. I'm very happy with it.
Definitely. Anything else you'd like to shout out or add before we...
I'm tired, man. I still got an 8-hour workday ahead of me. No, I'm good. I think... Yeah, I'm working from home today.
Okay.
No, I'm good. I'm just going to chill and eat my chips. And thanks for having me. Hello, internet, whatever.
Thank you, Johnny. It was a pleasure.
No.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
All right. If you head over to the Patreon now, you can check out the full content of the episode where Johnny goes Hollywood and gives us some nice gossip dish on Noise's biggest stars. He also talks about his favorite budget pedals and about his Sonic and Family Guy fascination. That extended video is on the Patreon at everyone who subscribes at the €5 a month level, called WCN TV. Johnny was also cool enough to donate an unreleased sunk cost track, which you're hearing actually in the background right now, for Patreon supporters. So everyone in the Maniac Circle will be able to download that. For those who haven't noticed or been made aware, there is a new schedule for the podcast now in effect, meaning that public episodes like this one today happen on the first and third week of every month. On the second week is a Patreon-only WCN TV episode, which is going to be a lot of after blasts where I follow up with guests I've previously interviewed. So I have one coming up with Pat Yankee very soon. I have one coming up with Jim Harris very soon, and more in the works. So that'll be a WCN TV content episode every second week of the month. Then the last week of the month will be the White Centipede Noise video party, which is basically where Patreon supporters, previous guests in the podcast, White Centipede Noise label alumni get together on a video feed and talk about a certain topic. It's pretty loose, but I guess I'm calling it a workshop from now on, just in the fact that we're going to have more specific focused topics of conversation. That'll happen the last weekend of each month, and then the recording of it will be available for Patreons who were not there, also at the WCN TV level. So that means weekly content is still coming out, but you've got to be signed up for the Patreon to get access to all of it. I've also made some updates to the Maniac Circle level, which is €10 a month. I'm going to be offering people more of a chance to get involved with the podcast, which can mean submitting content, submitting videos, submitting noise, submitting questions, and also sharing a lot of information and behind-the-scenes stuff about the podcast and the label on the Discord, which is a fantastic place to network and chat with people who are fanatics about this stuff. I've also made some changes to the €25 a month level, previously called heavy sponsors, now including Noise Fiends. I'm giving access to a private ongoing distro list that's updated as items are coming into my shop, and I'm putting them there, a shared Google Doc that people can check out and order things before they hit the shop. So if you're someone who likes to order from the distro and have had issues with reserving things in time, I've never done reservations in the past because I just can't keep on track of it and it's just too much to handle, but this is a way for me to offer reservations and pre-orders to a small group of people as a thank you for their generous support. I'm also going to be giving out more of the merch gifts at that level. So whenever it's possible with every episode, I want to give away some sort of item. I'm giving away this cap right now. In a minute, there will be a post on Patreon for those heavy sponsors and Noise Fiends. Whoever comments first can get the cap. All right, I think that's about it for now. There's a very good chance I'll be taking the next couple weeks off White Centipede Noise entirely, as I take some time to get situated with my family and spend some time focusing on that. I will be back very soon. I really appreciate your support in the meantime, and take care, and we'll see you soon.